In this video demo, we're going to take a look at the main portion of chroma keying with Bluebox World. Bluebox World is a separate chroma key program that you can add on to your system by going into System Settings and clicking on Install Product, and then inserting your smart card or your all software CD and activating the program Bluebox World. Once the program is active, you can find this over in your Transitions menu once you've added a couple of scenes to your storyboard. In this case, we're going to take a look at a scene here that's got a background with a green background screen here behind a subject, and we'll put a little foreground map in front of it, and this is what is going to be used to chroma key behind this subject here in place of the green. We do want to make sure that these scenes match in length, so we're going to trim this map scene down here that we pulled from the Columbus program down to equal length and add that up in front of the scene that's going to be keyed out. Generally in practice, it's a good idea to probably even remember this phrase that blue box is behind, or any scene that carries the color that you're going to be keying out is the second shot on the storyboard and when you're involving the transition of Bluebox World. So let's go over to Transitions. And in Transitions, alphabetically, you're going to find the main chroma key program BB Bluebox World located there, and you'll need to add the effect to the storyboard. And as in any case in Transitions, it defaults to 1 second, so you might want to make sure that the timer lasts for the full length of the two scenes. So we'll increase the length here to 4 seconds. The Bluebox World main program, the main chroma key program, is found when you start Program File here. Once you enter in the Bluebox World program here, you're going to find that some of the images might pop up based on what you've last put into the menu settings here. So one of the buttons over here in the lower right in Bluebox World is called Default, which will allow you to reset all your commands here. So we're going to hit OK to start all the command values. This will reset us, and now we will be focusing on the scene with the keying color that we're going to remove. Let's break down the main chroma key program files here. First, we have the Mode section. And this is where you choose the type of mode you want to work with. Each one of these modes will have a different series of effects located in the middle once you've chosen a different mode. To the far right, we have our timer. Our timer is going to show us specifically what frame we're looking at in the video and how the Bluebox World is affecting it at that frame point. Generally, Bluebox World will start at 0 frames here, starting at your first frame of video. Down in the lower right corner here, you have the opportunity to preview your effect, so you don't actually have to exit out of this menu. You can archive your commands or your settings that you've loaded into each one of these modes. The default setting, which allows you to reset the program to clean everything up and start from scratch. And the I button will give you info about the current version of software you might be running on this program. Down in the lower right is your FX or your Transitions hotkey. This would take you right back out to the main Transitions menu. So let's take a look at each one of these modes. The first sections over here, these first three, are the ones you're probably going to use the most. And we're going to start out with the very top one. This is actually the type of mode that you're going to use to grab your color out and key it out. And you'll see this is actually called the blue box mode, this big blue three-dimensional cube. The blue box mode has several different methods to mask out that color. And you can see through the list here we have different methods to do it. The basic one is here called Standard. And under Standard, what it's asking you here is to select an area or a solid hue that you want to key out. In this case, the green. So we'll click on Select Area, and you'll see a dotted box will appear on the screen. And this dotted box is represented by this position and this size. So what you want to do is you want to get this box using position to left click and then left click to drop down this upper left hand corner of the box. And that's going to lock down this area, and size will stretch it out to fill out as much as you can grab without any interfering colors. In this case, this would be a bad box grab, meaning we're trying to grab both the black and the green here to key out. If we stretch this box as large as it will go without grabbing any interfering colors, we're going to select as much of the green as we can to say this is the color that we want to mask out and replace with the first scene on the storyboard. You'll notice once you hit OK, the background is now shifted. It's now found that green to be a fairly solid color. It's masking it out, and then you can use this tolerance slider to say how cleanly of that color are you masking it out. How tolerant are you being to keeping that color or removing it. And as you move this slide around, you can see it's going to affect the overall subject here and the image and how clean it's keying it out. You'll probably find yourself somewhere around the 30% mark here to start out with, and then you can adjust this slider in real time as long as you're running Smart Edit 3 or above to see the changes live as you're scrolling through here. So we'll leave it somewhere around here for the moment under Tolerance. As you can see, there's a list of other ways to key it out. You can do things specifically on hue, on color, the color and the brightness, just brightnesses of your background image, saturation levels of your background images in multiple colors. You also even have the option here to select black. If you had a background that might be a black scene, you can actually key out black as your background. Through this list here, basically the concept is there's different methods and modes to key out the color depending on how you shot this background. Whether it's a smooth solid color background, if it's different luminance levels, different colors, you're going to probably try and experiment with these different colors here. And you'll find there's no harm in experimenting to find out which best mode is going to work for you to key out your image. Generally, I like to work with the blue screen. That's probably the fastest mode to work with. That allows you to select between 3 different selectable basic solid colors. In this case, we'll use green screen since we shot the subject in front of a green screen. You can see it has both a tolerance slider to say how clean you're going to mask out that color, and also a matte density option here, which allows to compensate for any different levels of brightness or darkness that you might have shot on that green screen, because it's not always easy to get a solid, evenly lit back screen, but that's your overall goal when you're working with chroma keys. So once you've got a good level here of tolerance and matte density, you can use this next button mode here called Select Alpha. And the Select Alpha section here allows you to soften your edges using the transition button. So you can see by sliding and activating transition, you can soften the edges between the subject and your background. So we might just set here a nice small transition of 1. Alpha is saying how transparent is your subject going to be, the information that is not part of the chroma key color. 100% means it is solid. And the very bottom one here is a mode option to add some other effects. Different kinds of things here you can experiment. One is a favorite is aura, so you can set a color to be an aura around your image and say how thick that aura is going to be, whether it's going to be real thick with a sharp edge, or you can make it softer by expanding the size and selecting different types of colors using your color image wheel here. There's also other effects in here like shadows and ghosts, and you can cast shadows off of your subjects with the shadow option. You can set ghost to make your subject appear to be just a shadow option, and then another one here called beaming, and beaming would incorporate the effects that you might add from another mode over here called the timer, which allows you to fade in this type of chroma key effect and choose what method of fading in you're going to do from your image pool. So you could use this twisty twirl to make the image come in on the screen and fade in if you had added these time in and time outs using selected wipes from the chroma key program. So different methods to add different effects to your image when using Blue Box World. The other 3 modes over here is one we have the option to set it to be a full image so that you are keying out the full image on the screen. If you deactivate this, you can choose to include just a certain portion that you want to key out, maybe set up and designate a certain square on the screen that's going to key out, or exclude a certain area. So one little square over here might just be chosen to be a green area, which you might key out with another layer if you make a scene of this. So selecting area, generally you'll probably have this check mark to say key out the full image. The next option again is this timer mode, and this is basically saying if you set a time in or time out, you're basically setting up a fade for this image. So our subject, as you can see, we're rolling through the frame slider here, is fading in. And that effect under beaming that we chose under the effects area could make this fade in with a particular mask. So we'll set the time ends to 0, so this is going to be straight on because it is lasting the full length of the scene. The last mode here is called Special Features. And Special Features gives you the options of move or mask rectangle. Basically, the move rectangle allows you to grab a portion of video, maybe this subject, and move it into another location. Mask rectangle allows you to mask a portion of video, maybe mask the lower portion of the subject and replace it with the background. So we're masking a portion of the subject. So let's just try one of these here. Under move rectangle, we could say, let's move this rectangle. And the source area is saying, what source do we want to move? And we can set up the position and size box. Again, the upper left corner is where you first left click to lock that first part of the box, which you can then use to size, and hit OK. And destination area is where do we want to move this information on the screen. And I might say, let's take and move him down here into the lower left corner. So that way we can take and move our subjects that are in front of the green screens and move them to different portions of the video. So a nice way to maneuver, if it hasn't been shot properly, to position your subject or your information into a new location in front of what's being keyed out behind them. So if we're finished with what we've got here on the screen, I'll go ahead and deactivate the Use button here, so we'll keep them back centered on the screen, and we'll click on the little FX button here to come back out to the main transitions menu. At this point, you could then create your background and start creating it, and this will start building your particular transitional effect. While this is creating, a couple things to mention is if you are using longer scenes up here as a tip, if this was a 1-minute scene, maybe with the anchor and the weather map in the background in this particular example, the sliders, the real-time sliders inside the Blue Box World program might be a little sluggish, mainly because it's trying to real-time preview a very long effect. So as a tip, you might try using a lower timer here on your effect, maybe a 5 to 10 second time of your transition, just to manipulate it and work with it in the Blue Box World program. That way you can actually get the real-time sliders to move a little more effectively and cleanly, and then once you've come back out and finished it, come back up, set your timer for the full length of the 2 scenes, and then do your create. The other thing to mention too is, remember, Blue Box World here is acting as a transition, so we are merging scene A into scene B, and this is going to create a problem for your audio. You'll find that the audio is going to fade out from scene 1, and scene 2's audio is going to fade in. So you might need to use the scene sample button to take a copy of your audio from your background scene or your subject in front of the green screen, so that it becomes an audio clip in your audio record menu, which you can add later and then mute this transitional scene in the mix window. That way you can have your audio and it'll still be in sync because it's going to be placed right underneath that same audio clip that has the original audio. So once your effect is rendered here, then you can play it to take a look and make sure everything's A-OK. If there's any improvements that need to be made, you can come right back in here to start the program and maybe adjust your modes or your tolerance sliders to improve the cleanliness of the image. Again, this is the main chroma key program of Blue Box World, keying out a color on a scene and replacing it with another video clip. And this, of course, could be a moving video clip. For example, if maybe we had this black film wheel up here, and maybe we wanted this title here in the background. This is just a moving countdown film effect here. We can use Blue Box World to key out the black background from this animated film projector. And we got to add the effect, of course, to the storyboard and set the timer. And then enter in Start Program. At this point, you'd see your first frame of this wheel here, and we could set this to black to key out the black background and perhaps remove our aura. And then we'll have this moving projector appearing in front of this background countdown. So you can do this in front of moving video scenes if you wanted to. You can have portions of maybe a green shape that you might have drawn with CB Paint or the Acaba Paint programs that you want to key in and replace video with it. So the Blue Box World program is a very powerful way to replace or mask colors within your videos. It also offers you options in the image processing menu. We are not going to cover these in detail. You can find in the Tips and Tricks series, volume number 1, we do go in and cover how to come in and use Blue Box World to separate chroma, so that you're basically removing all color in your video scene and showing how you can keep one particular color in this video by choosing your color choice and removing the saturation of all the background colors using your sliders in here. And again, this is something that's covered in our Tips and Tricks Volume 1, and it's another feature of the Blue Box World, and you'll find this is a very powerful and effective way to manipulate and change your videos using this amazing Blue Box World program.